Do you know the one thing about young women today, they feel more fearless. So I think it's a different world they're coming into and they do have a sense of confidence. They won't be without the same imposter syndrome that, inevitably comes up. But I think back yourself in, make sure you've done your research and you're prepared and I guess just own who you are.
Hi, I'm Sarah Bartholomeusz from YouLegal. The Accountants on Purpose podcast showcases inspiring accountants who are leaders in their field.
And then it just came to me like a bolt of blue.
What makes them tick?
Love it.
How did they get to where they are?
I want to inspire.
And what do they do now for their teams, their clients, and the world? Are you looking to make a difference in your accounting career? Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand have designed a new program to offer greater learning flexibility, allowing candidates to balance work and study efficiently. The new CA program offers authentic assessments based on real-world scenarios that integrate technical and professional capabilities and impactful learning through a blend of digital and face-to-face options. Learn more, search New CA Program today. Amanda Cox is a fellow of both Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand and the Governance Institute of Australia. She's an experienced sport executive with more than 20 years of finance, people and culture, strategy, risk management and governance experience. Amanda is currently employed as the Chief Financial and People Officer at Racing and Wagering Western Australia and was previously an executive at the West Coast Eagles Football Club. Amanda is a non-executive director with Edge Employment Solutions, WA Institute of Sport and RPH Medical Research Foundation and on numerous community committees. Previous roles include Chair and Regional Counsellor for the WA Chartered Accountants Regional Council and member of the Curtin Business School Accounting Advisory Board. What's something interesting about you that most people don't know?
If I go back a while, it's a bit of a sliding doors moment. So when I graduated high school, I actually considered studying medicine instead of accounting. So talk about a different career I could have ended up in, but happy with my choice.
As someone who's heavily involved with the sporting industry, what is your favourite sport?
I worked in AFL for over 15 years, so absolutely that's going to be a favourite. I think it's inevitable when you're there, you build a real passion for the game and you kind of see it from a different perspective. So that certainly helps. But generally I love most sport. Something really uniting about sport and the way it brings people and communities together. The other part of that is, I guess, the elite level. So watching athletes perform at their best and strive to achieve, really quite inspiring. So generally, I tune into all sorts of sports, but AFL is definitely a favourite.
It's been a challenging couple of years for AFL, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. Yep.
Do you play any sport?
For most sports.
Yeah, for most sports, I know. I guess I was particularly aware of it because last year my son's teacher was a WAFL player. So we were going to all the games and she had to isolate from time to time because of scares on planes and things. So yeah, it felt very close to home, I suppose, the issues that were happening.
Yep, absolutely.
Do you play any sport yourself?
I would like to say that I do, but I think the older you get, the more difficult it is to find sort of people that you can align your schedules with and sort of play in that team sport way. So I'm happily a spectator now, but stick to things like yoga and hiking and sort of more passive sports, I guess.
Well, it's still very good for you, so don't talk them down too much. Other than yoga and hiking, what do you like to do in your spare time?
For me, it's about things that I guess keep me grounded, help me reset after, busy weeks at work. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's generally spending time with family and friends. I especially love being around kids, my nieces and nephews especially, because I think they just remind you what life's all about and, it's the simple things for them. So, that's definitely what I try and do. And otherwise just sort of reconnect, get outside in nature. WA's got a beautiful climate here, yes. So getting out and about is really quite easy. And I got into hiking about 4 years ago, so I try and do that as much as I can and do a big hike every couple of years with friends. So yeah.
So Tasmania, overseas.
Well, actually, my big one, which who would have known now in the time of COVID, but In 2019, I hiked the Great Wall of China for charity.
Wow.
So we were doing that for motor neuron disease to raise money and awareness. So met some incredible people over there, and we're still really close to this day. And then last year we did the Cape to Cape, so from Cape Naturalist to Cape Lewin, which was an incredible experience. Almost actually a year to the day we'd be on the track.
Wow. And then do you always have one coming up?
Yeah, look, this year, like COVID's obviously had a huge impact on the ability to travel and do the bigger hikes, but my connection with the charity for motor neuron disease has remained. So this year we've actually got one of our participants who's going to hike 100 Ks for $100,000. So that's coming up later this year. So we're working towards that and supporting her, and we'll do bits and pieces along the way with her.
Oh, that's a good way to do it. So she's not lonely.
Yeah.
And so that not everyone has to walk 100 Ks. What is your favourite aspect of your current role as CFO and People Officer at Racing and Wagering WA?
Similar to my role at the Eagles, the combination of being Chief Financial and Chief People Officer is an unusual one at an organisation, but it's not without its challenges, and it's a hard slog, and, you wear different hats at different times. But I think I really thrive on the variety of the role and the challenges that come with that. And for me, I guess my drive and my purpose comes from an ability to make meaningful change in an organisation. And at Racing and Wagering, there's big changes that we're bringing in, and it's much needed. And I think having an ability to influence and be part of that change is really kind of what motivates me.
Is there a career moment that you're most proud of?
There's probably a few, but one that stands out is probably a more public one, and that's when I was at the West Coast Eagles and we won the 2018 premiership. So a really proud moment. It was a culmination, I think, of a lot of hard work. Obviously everyone kind of can see what the players do on field to get out there and prepare, but behind the scenes, the team that has to pull together to get there is quite incredible. And I was lucky enough to have a role that meant I led our finals efforts through an internal committee, as chair of that committee, that, involved lots of scenario planning for, the result would obviously happen on a weekend, and it could go either way depending on, performance on the day, all sorts of things. So we had to be prepared for what was coming up. So that was everything from starting negotiation with airlines and hotels, liaising with family members of players, staff. Our intent was always to get as many people as we could across to Melbourne. And so our contingent was about 600 people, I think, in the end, which included taking all of our staff with us to celebrate, because, as a moment that really matters for the club.
Definitely.
And something that everyone should share in because they were a part of. It was really important that we took them with us. So, we all got there, and it's always the hope you'll make it to the big stage on grand final day. And in 2018, we were lucky enough to do that, and then, went on to win what was like a really epic game in terms of being on the edge of your seat the whole game. So, really proud moment, and the way we celebrated together as a club was really quite incredible.
You just, as a bystander or watcher of sport, never think about all those things what a huge team, I suppose, it takes to win something like that, or just get there in the first place, because getting there and not winning would have been a huge achievement in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it really is a team effort. You do feel really connected. The clubs always say it's like a family, and it's actually really hard to articulate what that feels like unless you're in it. But it really is this family vibe, a connected community, and being part of something like that, which is ultimately what you're working towards for many years, what it's all about.
So on the West Coast Eagles, you were the first woman to be appointed to the executive team of the West Coast Eagles, and it was all before you turned 30, which is very impressive. And you've managed to be incredibly successful in what otherwise are male-dominated industries generally. Have you found any particular challenges in that respect?
Oh, yeah, look, so many. And I think sometimes you only realise in hindsight kind of what you've achieved and what you've come through. I think as a female, I guess particularly at the time, AFLW didn't exist. So there wasn't even a professional pathway for women to play the sport. So coming into a sport where it was perceived you didn't really know anything about it at that professional level. A club typically employs a lot of people that have been through the path as a player themselves. So, coming in with potentially your own self-doubt, but then kind of the doubt of others. It's how do I build the respect and I guess assert myself in this environment when, I'm working a lot of the time with only men in the room and wanting to get my viewpoint across. So, it was working hard on building rapport and respect with the right people and ensuring that they understood I was there for my professional capacity and what I brought to the table.
And then I suppose your confidence is important in that environment
too. It is,
too.
and sometimes you got to fake it till you make it. So like many women, I typically suffer from imposter syndrome as well. So giving yourself kind of the mechanisms to feel confident in the moment and prepare yourself to be. I over-prepared myself for so many meetings and conversations because I wanted to make sure that I would be respected for what I had to say.
Well, this might just be echoing what you just said, but do you have any advice for young women who are passionate about entering industries that are currently male-dominated?
Do you know, the one thing about young women today, they feel more fearless. So I think it's a different world they're coming into and they do have a sense of confidence. They won't be without the same imposter syndrome that, inevitably comes up. But I think back yourself in, make sure you've done your research and you're prepared and I guess just own who you are and put it out there. So for me, I'm probably at the point now in my career where I feel like I know my self-worth more so than I probably did when I first started. So the sooner you can, I guess, arrive at that point where you know your worth and you know why you're in the room, gender then shouldn't matter.
So you're like knowing your values and knowing your purpose, I suppose, sound like they're important parts of that journey too, so that you can connect with why you're doing it after having hard days and having a meeting that didn't go the way you expected it, perhaps.
Yeah, and I think, back to needing to feel grounded, I think all of us in our day-to-day lives, there's moments of stress and overwhelm and not thinking you'll get through the mountain of work, but I think you need to have something that kind of grounds you and reminds you that, at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff we do, it's not saving lives. It's just trying to do the best we can at the time. And so, having that moment where you can kind of ground yourself and think, reset and prepare for the next day and whatever challenges you might face.
What advice do you have for young accountants generally?
It's probably advice that hasn't changed for 10 years. I spoke to a young group of students about 10 years ago and it's be prepared to put in the hard work first and then the rewards will follow. I think too many times we see young people come through and want to strive for the top and it's great to have ambition, but you've also got to be prepared to do the hard work to get you there. And then find your sense of true north, like what are you aiming for? Set yourself some goals and then work towards it and be really vocal about asking what you need, what's the pathway to help me get there. If you've got a good leader or manager that you work with, they'll work with you really, really well to help you develop to achieve that goal. And in most organisations, if you can't achieve your career aspirations there, as long as you're doing as much as you can in your role and pushing yourself forward, they'll actually be really supportive of helping you find your next opportunity, even if that is outside of the organisation.
It's great advice. What is your purpose?
I think my purpose is to leave things better than I found them. So making meaningful change, being part of that change and doing it in a way that is with a great deal of empathy and support for the people around me.
Aww.
Is that a bit cheesy?
I love it. What would you say to 18-year-old Amanda?
Believe in yourself more, have more confidence and don't be afraid to speak up, say things in the moment. I'm naturally more of an introvert, so I think, being able to assert yourself and have that confidence is really important. So, that's what I'd say to myself.
Love it. We're on a mission to find like-minded accountants from around Australia. If you are a purpose-led accountant, continue the conversation with us in our private Facebook group. Search for Accountants on Purpose. Join us and together we can change the world for good.